Imagine locking 100 people from age 1 to 100 inside individual glass cubes. The last to leave wins $500,000. Take away regular sleep cycles, privacy, and basic social etiquette, and you strip away the rules that govern everyday life. You place 100 humans into a total psychological vacuum. At first glance, a test like this seems purely physical. You'd expect the winner to simply be the person who can stare at a wall the longest without going insane. But what actually happens inside these walls perfectly mirrors the theoretical state of nature. With resources limited to basic survival rations and an enormous cash prize hanging overhead, the players are forced to adapt immediately to their raw, unpolished environment. The youngest contestants figured this out first. The kids realized they could weaponize their energy, creating relentless noise to deprive the entire room of sleep. This barrage of screaming acted like biological warfare. It completely bypassed physical strength and directly attacked the nervous systems of the older players. The elderly couldn't tolerate the chaos and began quitting almost immediately just to get some peace. Even the oldest competitor, a 100-year-old World War II veteran, initially claimed this challenge would be peanuts compared to his combat days. He tapped out by day 2. The modern psychological attrition of a glass box requires a completely different type of endurance. Raw physical tolerance and chaotic noise only thin the herd. To survive past the first few days, players must evolve from simply enduring the box to actively playing the people around them. The environment shifted completely when the rules forced the contestants to vote each other out. Suddenly, sheer stamina meant nothing, and the physical experiment became a political arena. The middle-aged contestants spontaneously formed a rigid voting alliance, demonstrating classic in-group and out-group dynamics, protecting their own decade while alienating everyone else. They weaponized their combined numbers. The 50s block systematically targeted the elderly and youngest remaining players, eliminating entire decades through synchronized voting. By voting as a single coordinated unit, this demographic made themselves mathematically invincible to any counterattacks from the isolated players scattered around them. When resources are scarce, a unified collective will always crush a scattered group of individuals. While the 50s relied on numbers, player 54 played a lone wolf game. He survived the mid-game purges by outright lying, manipulating his neighbors, and winning localized minigames to secure his spot. In an isolated one-on-one interaction, telling your opponent the wrong answer yields an immediate tangible reward. It keeps you safe while pushing them out. But the game structure eventually turned those isolated interactions into a public record. In a final twist, the 95 eliminated players returned as a jury to cast elimination votes against 3 of the final 5 contestants. This is a dual-axis chart comparing short-term success against long-term trust. Social capital is the value derived from positive relationships and reputation. Player 54 traded his long-term social capital for immediate wins, leaving him entirely bankrupt when he finally needed the crowd's support. The jury cast their ballots, and player 54 received 37 votes to leave, a massive majority that instantly neutralized all of his previous strategic victories. A lie works perfectly in a vacuum, but the moment a society forms a collective memory, those betrayals compound until the manipulator is removed from the group entirely. That massive purge left just 2 contestants, players 40 and 52, facing a final decision. 2 briefcases sat in front of them, and only one contained $500,000. The rules created a perfect asymmetry of information. Player 40 was allowed to look inside his case. Player 52 then had to watch his reaction and choose whether to keep her own case or steal his. Player 52 had spent over a week surviving betrayals and deception. Her perceptions were heavily warped by exhaustion and paranoia. This setup is a classic game theory paradox. In an environment where the mathematically optimal move often requires deception, the players are too mentally exhausted to decipher what is real. Player 40 looked inside his case, saw the prize, and made his move. He looked his opponent directly in the eye and stated the absolute, unvarnished truth. He had the money. Her conditioned paranoia took over. She assumed his honesty was a layered psychological trap, overthought the interaction, and chose her own empty case. The creator of this environment engineers these precise social boiling points deliberately. He constructs high-pressure scenarios that test raw human behavior, wrapping intense sociological experiments inside the format of internet entertainment. In an arena where every player expects to be lied to, manipulated, and betrayed, simply telling the truth scrambles the brain. Radical honesty becomes the ultimate bluff.